You know, I don't know how things come about.
Yeah.
You know, you have plans that you think you're doing something, and then all of a sudden something else happens. So far, it never has been the way I planned it to be. So the last thing I did, I know that was I covered a hotel, an apartment in Ketchup, and I think that was the last thing I mean, that was the last bit of anger that came out. It was like a hemorrhage, you know. And now that I think about it, my mother a year later died of a massive brain hemorrhage, and she came to that show. But my father's death and my mother's death bookended my whole exorcism that I was telling you about in New York. It's like I decided to get into this search, and the search was leading me to destroy things. I just had so much anger, you know, and every time I would go to destroy something, I saw something beautiful in that act of destruction, and for some reason I repelled, you know, beauty. I felt that was a weakness, you know, and but I would see it, even though I didn't want to see it. It would show up, you know, and I would continue to destroy something, and something beautiful would show up. And I remember that the thought that came to me when I first started to get into my art was this dream that I had that the art is deeper than where the light could reach. So I started to destroy and rip things apart, thinking it had to be something deeper than the surface. And it is deeper than the surface, but it's deeper not where it touches, but where it comes from. It's the source of light that's more important than where the light gets to. But I was going in about the back end of it, you know? So I got deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole. And it was a dark hole, and it was all about destruction, anger. And the last spewing was this ketchup room. And I tell everybody that, I mean, I didn't know, but I had my meeting with God. And what it was that I saw this madness, like total madness, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And the show was going to open. I had 4 days to the opening, and I just was like in a trance where I didn't know what to do anymore. And I saw my madness, and this voice comes to me and says, well, either if you don't get out of the way, I can't work through you. But I understood immediately what that was give up and be of service. And I just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and just kept putting on more and more ketchup. And every day was not sticking, it was falling down and falling down. And I just kept working, and people would pass by and would ask me, you know, what's the title? And I go, I don't know yet, I'm not finished. The night before the opening, I went to see it. And I felt a presence. You know, I thought, oh, this is amazing, you know, I'm feeling something. Now, that never occurred to me in work, which had nothing to do with what I see, had nothing to do with what I smell, or what I touch, but there was an actual presence. But that night, when I went to sleep, the voice comes to me as I wake up and says, I was here. And I thought, oh no, God, that can't be the title. That's so pompous. That's so pretentious, you know. No, I can't do that. You know, this is terrible. Why did this come to me? And I'm driving over to this exhibition, and the girl, I'm thinking, come up with a title, come up with a title. Finally, she's coming down the hallway, and she says, Cosimo, I need a title. And I'm thinking, like, oh my. And I feel this shove, like, who the hell are you to decide what the title's going to be? You know, and I look at her and says, I was here. She was great, thanks. And I thought, that was it. Being in New York, I had a friend of mine, Serge Moscovich, who's a psychiatrist. And he saw the work of the ketchup, you know, and he looks at me and goes, Cosmo, enough with this shit. I mean, how much longer can you do this for? Like, what are you trying to do? I go, Serge, I don't know, but it's over, you know. He goes, good, just move on, you know? Everything came about, and all of a sudden these jelly beans. And I didn't question them. I decided to not get in the way. And every day I have a mantra: love your beans, take the negative out of the work, just keep the positive. And I don't want to do anything other than to just work on them. And I love the sheer exhaustion of the work and lending yourself to making something beautiful. For the sake of just looking at something and saying, I like looking at it, you know, it makes me happy. It so happens I'm in California. I could not work in this way in New York. There's no way. You know, so I'm looking at colors. What I find interesting is also the shape is something that's inside of you. There's no separation between you and the shape. And then when the color hits it, all of a sudden you're seeing color for the first time. You know, like you're looking at the color and you lose the shape all of a sudden. You know, when I'm looking at these other beans, I'm like, wow, look at that color. You know, it's beautiful. And I forget that it's on the bean. Now, there's something that happens too. There's the shape calls the color. Some colors are made for rectangles. Some colors are made for flat surfaces. Some colors are made for ovals. Some are for round. You know, you can't look at work from a mental point of view. You know, it really needs the physical presence. You know, part of the work happens only when you're working, meaning if you over-intellectualize the work, there's no reverence. You know, because the truth is that the reverence comes from you being present. Just very spiritual, and I'm like so thankful that I'm in this presence, that I'm actually doing this, that I'm feeling the light. You know, I just can't get over this simple experience. You know, and the presence of life. You know, that you're sending down a block of styrofoam. You know, well, it's not styrofoam, you know, and you're touching something as if you're part of nature, you know. And it's funny, today this gentleman walks by and he says, excuse me, is this an embryo? You know, and I said, yeah. You know? And we started talking, and he was in Vietnam, and, you know, he was telling me his life story. And then at one point he says, because if it wasn't an embryo, I would say it was a jelly bean. You cannot remove yourself from the whole process. I mean, the experience of life, there is no beginning and end. There's no beginning of you here and an end to you here. You know, your inside of you and outside of you whole is part of this whole thing, right? So as you're sanding this piece and you're feeling the wind on the piece, you're part of that piece inside and outside, you know, and it's as much forming you as you're forming it. To criticize it, I have no interest, you know. To analyze it doesn't interest me at all. It's just to do it. And allowing yourself to be affected by your environment. And the light in Los Angeles is just absolutely amazing. I also find that in Los Angeles is so far away from America. You know, as far as I know, America is New York. You know, and I realized that living in New York is not America. You know, it's like the remnants of Europe. It's like this ash that's settled in this one area, and all the immigrants that brought this harsh past, you know, that they baked it into their recipes and then spread it all over the city. You know, my life was full of doubt, and now I have no doubt, and because I realized that it's not up to me. You know, all I have to do is show up at 8:30 in the morning and just do it, right? And the rest will work out. And like an idiot, I believe it. If you just close your eyes and feel the peace, it happens.
Now, a couple of things. When I make them, the real one, what's the finish?
It's just put,
Primer then? I mean, that same stuff?
yeah, you can use primer.
Or gel coat? It doesn't matter to me.
It's gel coat. I prefer gel coat.
What color? I know what
Red.
flavor, but I don't know what color.
Red.
Red. The red will be the mold, but you mean the jelly beans will be red too?
There'll be different colors, so you can use blue. Doesn't matter really. White. And let's make them white. Is that easy?
And these first three, they have to be strong enough to jump up and down on them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But not drive a truck on them.
No.
Well,
Skateboard.
Just think
skateboard.
if you drive a kid through it, his head could crack, but not the bean.
Yeah, no, I got it. That's about right.
Yeah.
I think the great gift that you have been given is to be an artist.
Yeah, my mother gave me that gift because I was a kid like every other kid living in a poor neighborhood, wanting everything. And I remember stealing this little tricycle coming home. I was like 4 years old. And I figured I'm going to take it home and nobody's going to see it. And as I'm running down this lane with this thing, dragging it up the spiral staircase, I was 4 or 5. And this kid starts to scream and I go, shit, somebody saw me, But I just continued figuring out, then I'm going to get into the house. And my mother comes out, she sees me coming up the stairs, from the 3rd floor to see what's going on. And she waited till I got there, she smacked the hell out of me, threw this tricycle down to this lady and told the lady that my son wasn't going to eat it, She grabs me, throws me into the kitchen, sits me down at the table, and she's yelling at me, while she's cooking. And I asked her why did that kid have that and I didn't have that? And she says, because that's the way God wanted it to be, And I'm thinking like, wow. I mean, I don't even, if God created everybody, why He doesn't want me to have a tricycle? Like I thought. Like, this guy's not a nice guy. I mean,
Yeah.
And I kept talking to her. She goes, listen, you want something, you can draw it. So she takes a piece of paper and a pen, and she says, shut up and just draw. Draw what you want, if you want it. And I'm like, this never came to me, and I'm like starting to draw. And I said, okay. She said, no, it's not real. Make it, draw it till it's real. And I got hooked onto this. I couldn't stop drawing. I mean, I went to the point where I forgot about what I wanted, And I remember drawing a pair of skates that I woke up in the morning and went looking all over my house for these skates, under the bed, under my cousin's bed, and I said, I have a pair of hockey skates, and they're here, and they're wondering, well, there's nobody here skates, nobody has money to buy a pair of skates, and I drew them to the point where I really saw them in my house. All of a sudden, I had an identity in the building where we lived. Like, he's the guy who draws, Interesting when you start to see two of them. Yeah. That's the play. Beautiful colors. Yeah. I mean, the 6 days, but it's actually like 12 days because he knows what he's doing. And I was using this fluorescent pink and all the other colors. We just added some to that color and came out here, sprayed it, and boom. And it gives us this light, like the color's lifting off the piece.
And how many days now to the opening?
Not enough. But with Jack, you learn not to panic. I don't know. I stopped counting the days and making plans. Just tackle the day with everything you got, and you'll get there. Monday to start to polish this one. And this one here, probably by tomorrow, or maybe by late today, we're gonna prime it and block it. Monday we'll start to paint that one.
And what's the color choice?
Purple. A Brogan purple. These are Brogan colors. So, it's been a hell of an experience. I mean, I'm so happy.
From orange to this. How did that come to be?
There's a ghost that didn't want it to happen. There was two roads to take. One was keep fussing with it till maybe it's gonna come out okay, but
The issue with spots, right?
yeah, I really didn't know what was causing those spots, and then to get rid of them, there was a solution to reprimer the whole thing, and just didn't have the time, so I went with the gray. The colors are all chosen by Jack. So whatever Jack comes up with, puts them, and I put them in a spray can and go paint them, you know. And that's like I wanted that experience with him, and it just it's incredible because it's a relationship, you know, where you see why he chooses a color, why, you know, and every color that he chose, I hated. And I was and I ended up liking them more and more. And you know, these colors have changed, you know, as we painting them, you know, like, I mean, I don't remember the first colors we started with, you know. I mean, they just evolve. And you remember the other day I said, you know, Jack fixes everything, and his attitude is, it's not over till it's over, right? So you just keep doing it, you know, and when time's up, it's up, but you don't stop doing it. A lot of times art is almost has no relationship, you know. It's so conceived in the mind of the artist that it neglects the viewer, you know, the participation of the viewer, right? There should be a space between the viewer and the object. That's a communication, right? Oftentimes, the viewer is left stupid in front of a work of art, you know, and that he feels he's not, you know, able to reach there. You know, that's why I like a McCracken. It's a box. It's a colored box, you know, and you can relate to that, right? That's the key, is to find that child expression. Like, every kid knows everything he or she experiences. They do, right? And they have, it's immediate. And getting back into my art, I had to like almost bleed to understand color. You know, I had to understand the pain to understand color, you know, and the value of color. So when you said the other day that your heart stopped and you lost all color, that blew my mind, because you know, I realized I was living with no heartbeat. You know, everything was just black and white. You know, and it's like once that heartbeat comes back, you start to see color. And I can't explain it, but it's when you stop hating yourself. It's when you stop hating everything. It's when you stop judging everything that you see all that. You know, but till then, it's just. It was a perfect time to be in New York. So for the light, you'd be amazed. It's a gorgeous purple. I'll show you this. I mean, you don't know this color till you see it in the light. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, beautiful, right? I call it Danica Red, because because of Jack, I got into looking at NASCAR racing, and there's this girl that's really an incredible race car driver, and her car is this color, and I kept telling Jack, you know, the Danica color is beautiful, you know, Danica green, but we never had it on any other beam, and all of a sudden, I don't know, it just happens here. You know, things go in a pot, and it's like cooking, and you say, oh wow. that's gonna scratch that.
Well, the strap.
Whoa, wait.
Nice scratch, not bad, huh?
The sun heat.
But I'm leaning towards keeping the two large ones,
like
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. There's
What I said.
one little thing that happened yesterday when they put them on the big truck. They put saran wrap and left it exposed on one of them. And left it on the truck for about an hour. And Jack was telling me you gotta cover them because there's just paint and all that. So we got a little bit of discoloration on the backside. So if it's
As far as this is in town, on that boat, I think the opening, and I have to go see after the opening. No.
I'll be here. I have to be on the phone.
I think it's very majestic. I love the color. I love the black one as well. It's almost like a purpley black, actually. It's not a black. And I love the shapes. I like the way it handles the reflections. And it's very aerodynamic in its own way. And it's also very humorous. Because you look at it and you have to laugh. I mean, it's a serious piece of artwork, but it is funny.
first time I see them all, place like this, how you see the other one just sitting in it.
Yes.
I love that view.
Right?
That beam in this one is
Yeah,
great.
right.
And y'all doing the third?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you tell them who they are?
You're wearing cowboy boots still.
Oh yeah, still wearing cowboy boots.
I'm going to introduce you to this gentleman here. He's a gentleman from the South.
You want me in this picture
And
still?
Oh yeah.
I can just say a couple of things about him. Beautiful, beautiful, and beautiful.
It's a great color.
So he opened my eyes in my life to color. You know, so, and it's funny because I had to meet him here in California. Yeah, I could not have done this in New York. It's impossible.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, and
Because everybody's black in New York.
oh, everybody's black, and also, it's forget about the finish. There's no finish, and here it's all about that finish. You know,
Right.
and it's like he gave me a life lesson of gratitude, where you realize. I said, you know, Jack, it's interesting. Before I got here, I was always looking for that other pearl. Every time you find a pearl and then you put that away, you want another pearl and another pearl. And I realized here, you don't go looking for the other pearl. You just keep the one you have and you keep sanding it and polishing it, you know? And it's so true, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to doing my next show with him too.
Are you going to be doing more beads?
We're going to do more of these. But, every time I drive to the studio, I see these arrows everywhere, right? California's got a lot of beautiful signs with these arrows pointing in.
You know, left turn only. And
No, but this bodegas, they have, you know, liquor sold here, and arrow, beautiful arrow will come in, you know, right?
Right.
And I said, you know, it's interesting. This is like calling, out of all the things I have in my mind, this one's like calling me every day. It's looking at. So I said, Jack, you and I are going to do this show together called Directions, you know, and it's going to be
sculpture.
Three-dimensional arrows,
okay.
right?
Okay.
And it's going to be his name, my name on this thing in this direction, because, and the one thing is this big, huge arrow that's up on the ceiling, and then, you know, some on the floor, some pointing to nowhere, right? You can make everything important as long as you put an arrow to it, right?
Right.
So, and I thought, this is it. I got to do it with Jack, and the finish is important with Jack, right? So I'm happy.